let me introduce myself properly, and then we could start with the primary content. My name is Marcel. I am in testing last 20 years. I started as a part-timer, quit my PhD studies, and decided that this will be my proper job. And since then, I am still in software testing. Nowadays, some people start calling it quality engineering, but in general, I like to search for some ideas nowadays how to make it more efficient. Talking about my previous experience, I'm a big fan of communities. So one of the community I was co-founding with my testing friends was Protest here in Czech Republic in Prague. And before that, I was also building one, I would call it community about hitchhiking and hitchhikers online in Slovakia. And while I was doing this, I was also working as an employee for a couple of banks, especially Austrian banks, which is Erste in Slovakia, and later Raiffeisen Bank here in Czech Republic. But after 10 years of experience, I decided that maybe I could start building something by my own. So I found a company with my co-founder in 2013. And since then, I was working on a lot of topics around testing. We were searching for ideas, how to improve efficiency in software testing. I became more test consultant, coach, or trainer. And last year, I decided that I will start building something new. I had some experience with tools, and I had plenty of experience from testing. So I thought, okay, maybe this is my last career opportunity. So I started building a new startup called Wopee, where we are focusing on software testing of web apps, especially using some visual testing approach. I'll be talking later about that. So that's myself, but I don't want to spend any more time on this because there are some more maybe exciting topics following on the next slide. So I would like to start first with some, I would say, theory or some, I call it signals, because on the market, there are a couple of companies talking about testing and about the future and about the move which we could face. And you probably see a lot of going on around AI, around the development efficiency, and all the things about automation. And one of the topic people start talking about a couple of years ago, actually, is autonomous testing. And one of the company called Gartner issued the report where they estimate that this idea, autonomous testing, will eat up basically 1/3 of the traditional approach. What is actually the extreme definition of autonomous testing is basically testing without humans. And I don't believe in that radical approach. So probably this is not exact or not feasible nowadays, but I know that we already master test automation and we could make it even better. So if you go extreme with automation, this is for me autonomous testing. So we are basically searching for the approach, how we could automate even the preparation of the tests, how we could automate the planning, prioritization, maintenance, authoring the tests, and so on. And in extreme, if you basically automate everything, you become, or your testing become autonomous. Another interesting research from Forrester is talking about similar topic. They are talking about testing bots, and they estimate that by introducing some testing bots, you could save roughly about 20 to 30 of your testing efforts, or increase your productivity by 30% if you would do so. So these are kind of signals we could see on the market, and I believe this could lead us, or at least it provokes me. What does it really mean? What we could do with this? How I could see that? Give me some practical examples. That was my first question, because there are many such reports, statements, kind of bold statements, but I would like to see it in practice. And that's why I decided that maybe I should prototype something in Cyprus. That's why this webinar, and I will share with you these ideas. But before that, let me maybe explain this autonomous testing and the journey to the autonomous testing and how I could see the move. Actually, testing is pretty old idea, and it became independent. Nowadays, maybe people are talking about something like getting back to the roots and becoming a part of the agile teams. And it's not something new. It's already, this idea is old. But what's happening out there, that starting with some manual testing, we, after a couple of years, found out that this cannot keep up with this current world, where the pace is something super important in IT delivery. So we started automating a lot of stuff. And after this automation, we found out, okay, but even automation is too slow, or even automation is still too manual. We do a lot of tasks there, which could be maybe automated, generated, or handled differently. So another idea behind the automation is that probably we could do it better. We could do the better automation. And I'm trying to use this slide and stress out that this is maybe just another or a better automation. I don't know how it will end up, but this is something which is coming, and we will face it. Or you could already see a lot of features introduced by various vendors into their tools. And if you would be interested, at the end of my talk today, I will share some ideas with maybe 20 different tools you could experiment or analyze or learn from them, how they implement these ideas into their tools. So I will share at the end of this talk also some other ideas apart from the ideas I am now presenting using Cypress. So let's now move and introduce Cypress for those who don't know the Cypress, but I expect that you are pretty familiar and maybe you are joining this webinar because you are the master of Cypress as a tool. For me, to be honest, I am pretty okay. I'm like an average user. I'm not considering myself as a Cypress expert or advanced user of Cypress. And many of ideas I will share today might be implemented in any other tool, but I decided that I'll try to implement these 7 ideas into various tools. So I did it already in Robot Framework. I did the same in Playwright. And now I'm sharing with you my experience, how it went when I start implementing the same ideas I will be sharing later with you in Cypress. So Cypress itself is end-to-end testing tool for web apps. It's used JavaScript. Basically, it is JavaScript framework. You can write your test also in TypeScript as well. And I believe, or not believe, but I see Cypress as one of the biggest rival or challenger of Selenium. It's pretty mature tool with a huge community, or I would say big community, and they have brilliant documentation. At least that's my, even like last day's experience when I was preparing the demos and examples how we could implement the ideas of this Autopilot. Maybe I will just repeat what I already said to make it clear. Now I'm focusing on the Cypress and ideas within the Cypress. So it'll be a lot about coding and how we could make this coding easier or more efficient. So let me first share the 7 ideas with you. So you might know what I will be sharing later during the webinar, and you might decide whether this is still something you would like to see, or maybe it's something you are not interested at all. And as I said, these are the 7 ideas, and I will go one by one and show you some demos, some code snippets, and explaining what I could see behind that ideas. And it's split into 2, maybe the biggest challenging when you are using any coding approach in your test automation. One is how to handle asserts, and the second one is how to deal with interaction. And I will show you some scripted ideas and also some AI-powered ideas later in the webinar. So let me first start with something that might be pretty familiar to you, and this is asserts. Asserts are often something could be very painful if they are not designed properly, or if you are not following some good practice. And imagine that you have this type of form where you need to automate entire interaction with the screen and checking whether you are getting some confirmation page after providing your credit card details. To do so, I would implement it in this way. Maybe I would write something like a short script, just filling in all the data into individual elements. Then I submit that form by clicking purchase button, and then I would validate whether there is thank you for your order in the text on the confirmation page. But imagine that it would look like this. It would be completely broken. You could see the text, but there are no menu options. There are no buttons, anything else. So assert pass, the test is green, but we are missing a lot of components, and I'm not sure whether this is a correct implementation or what's wrong here. And one of the options I could have is that I will bring a lot of other asserts, or maybe I could introduce manual testing, or maybe I could take a screenshot and validate it after my automated regression test finished. But this is pretty a lot of effort, and maybe it's not so efficient because you then need to handle the maintenance of these asserts. It might be more, it might require more time to build that asserts, and many other challenges are behind there. So I was thinking about some alternatives. And as I said, these are just ideas how we could handle this type of situation. So I asked myself when I was preparing this, is it 4 times better if we implement 3 more, or if we implement 4 asserts instead of 1? And I don't believe this is the best approach. And I was talking to even, I present similar talk on some conferences, and we were discussing after my talk over break, how we could handle this. And there are a couple of opinions. There are a couple of things what we could do. Maybe we could have some extra tests for each of these, or do something else. But let me share with you some alternative approaches. And these alternative approaches, I call them technical asserts or some quality signals, as I call them, because they are not proper or typical functional asserts as we are implementing in Cypress or any other web automation tools. And these are three ideas I believe could help you to increase your coverage, because this is basically about building the proper coverage or extending your test to get a proper coverage. So first one is checking the status code. You probably know, or if you're experienced with Cypress, you know that this is something you are getting out of the box from Cypress. You can disable that, but when you navigate through the page and there is some problem with status code, you are getting the error into your console, and you can see that there is some problem. Another idea was, okay, what about checking console, whether there are some JavaScript errors or warnings, or maybe we could check how quickly the page is loaded. So introducing these might help you to identify some problems, even without need of any extra asserts within your test. And by the way, I'm welcome Jonas joining us today. I'm just keep going, and if you need to comment, and this is maybe the message for everyone, use Q&A, and I will review that comments after my talk, and I will answer all the questions there. So if you have any feedback, ideas, questions, just let me know via Q&A. It's moderated, so you cannot see what you post there, but I will go through that and reply after my talk. So you are welcome to ask or comment during my talk. So these are three ideas you could implement within your code, within your testing approach. And there might be a couple of options. I basically decided that I will bring here too, how I could do it. So how I could implement these checks. First, I could modify my existing tests, which is super flexible. And as I said, the status code check is already there in Cypress, so I do not need to even implement it. And as I said, in Robot Framework and Playwright, I would need to somehow cover this. But this might be pretty expensive to implement across entire test suite and then maintain it. So I wouldn't go to this direction. I wouldn't consider introducing like these checks, these three asserts on the test level. I would rather consider something else. And my idea was, okay, what about introducing some crawler? So maybe we could have some crawler which scans your app, which goes through your app, which might be pretty easy to implement. And it might be complementary approach. So you are keeping your tests as they are, but then you have some crawler checking your web page and covering all options in your page and checking these speed, where you can have some threshold, and also status codes or even console logs. It is less flexible, but I believe this is the way how I would cover or implement the idea. I have very quick, I wouldn't call it even maybe demo, but I have some short snippet. And if you would be interested in the code, I could share a repository with you, or just the code itself in a zip file. So you can play with it. But I implement simple crawler, which just go through your page and crawl entire links. Or you could implement it in a way that it won't be only links, it might be buttons, it might be something else. But I did very simple crawler to follow all the links. And what it does, I built basically very simple check of status code. It might be very similar to the similarly, you can build also the validator for loading time. Even this is part of your out-of-the-box solution for Cypress. In my case, I would like to cover also the pages I'm not testing, so I'm crawling entire website and checking whether there is some status code. Of course, I could limit that, how many pages I would like to visit, maximum. I have some more extra code below this code snippet, so to crawl the page, but it was too complex to pull it out here, so I just decided to take this one. And at the end, I am generating very simple report with number of visited URLs and how many these non-200 status code pages I found. Just quickly, I would just quickly check whether all goes well. It looks okay. There is even chat working for some guys, which is brilliant. I thought I disable it, so chat is working. Perfect. So you can use that as well if you wish. And later we can discuss the questions and topics you post there. So this is something what I was playing with. And my idea was that basically I could collect I could collect some signals from the website I'm testing. And as I said, this is out-of-the-box solution. Cypress give you all the alerts if the status code is not correct. But in my case, I want to go through the entire 15, in this case, 15 pages, and not stopping the test execution within one single test. So this is the one of the idea behind, which I basically covered 3 various asserts, and that's why I said three ideas, like status code, speed of page, and the last one was any issues in console log, like warnings or errors. Another one, and I call it idea 4 and 5 because this helps with various situations, and I'll explain that, is some visual asserts. So before I will be talking how to implement it, I would like to start first explain why this might be useful. And I have also one slide explaining why this might be pretty stupid idea and you shouldn't use it. Okay, Jonas is saying that he can't see the shared screen. So I hope this is not only, this is not a global issue, otherwise that would be a problem. So what about, for me, it's visible. Okay, Evelyn, thank you for that. So maybe Jonas try to reconnect, or I don't have any other idea, but it should all be fine. And at least it looks okay on my side. Okay, so I saw some reactions for Evelyn, so I'll keep going. And Jonas, if you could rejoin us, that would maybe help. So let's move on. Visual validation. This is something which is pretty, I would say, controversial topic. Some people love it, some people hate it, and I would like to show you some ideas why this might be a good idea. And to be honest, I'm biased. I'm biased because we are building some tool to support the ideas, to support the visual testing strategy. So I believe in the idea. So first, why? Basically, when you are succeeding with your test automation, you are dropping manual efforts. You are dropping to involve any human for smoke tests, or maybe even for some regression testing, because you fully covered your test suite by automated scripts. And a couple of my testing friends also mentioned that we are releasing a couple of times a day, Marcel. So we cannot even afford to do it manually. So we need to count on automated scripts. And whenever we release, we test automatically. But if you drop manual testing, you might have still some chances to cover the risk which you are introducing, but I'll show you first how it would look like. So if I navigate through this page and using any traditional automation tool, whether it's Selenium, Cypress, Playwright, you name it, all the tools which are using DOM or document object model to navigate through the elements, to click on the buttons, to fill email based on some CSS locator or ID, it could easily pass in case the screen looks like you can see on my slide, but if it is broken, it could still be nicely green. So this is something, if you are dropping out manual testing, you are introducing this type of risk. And you might discuss, or we might discuss, whether it's big enough, whether the risk is big or not. And there are a couple of options how you could handle this. One is do the exploratory testing, do the smoke testing always manually. But as I said, 14 times a day, I'm not sure. And usually these are so small and basically simple changes, you don't want to scan your app again and again manually to make sure that it works. So it's even more painful because these small changes are not worth to spend manual effort on one side. But on the other hand, it could introduce such a failures. So what and how to handle it? If exploratory manual testing wouldn't work, maybe you could collect screenshots, but still the test automation team need to collect the screenshots and manually check whether these screenshots are correct or not. And in this case, there is a pay button on both screens. On the right side, there is pay button. It's white on white. On the left side, there is black button on white background. So basically, user would be confused, even they would be willing to fill in this form with some sensitive data. It might be pretty risky for them. So let's move on. But this is something what I believe visual testing might help. Another one might be pretty interesting because that's another opportunity where to introduce visual testing. Imagine that you have something like this. It's basically a pretty horrible registration form for some B2B portal, because I could expect that it could be simplified, but there is plenty of mandatory fields, and you would like to be sure that the registration works as you expect. So you write your code. And the simplest way of doing so, you just submit button to register, and then you validate whether there is a proper CSS class applied. or you might maybe package this into some page object or something, but still you need to write pretty decent number of lines. But if I would take a screenshot, keep the screenshot, and then just compare whether the screenshot looks the same like before, I could remove 12 lines of code, and I don't need to even write them, not remove them, but I could basically skip writing any asserts and comparing the just screenshots. Of course, there are some good practice you need to follow to make it stable, like you need to freeze the resolution, or you need to run it on specific configuration, like the same browser, because different browser might have a different get different results because it's rendered differently and so on. But these are the things which are this is the pretty mature idea, and all these things are well known how to set it up to make it stable. You might even want to maybe, I don't know, mask some parts of the screen, not to compare, or compare just some pieces of the screen, not entire page. And the third one, which might be also a useful use case, is that when you have a pretty complex UI and you want to test it, it might be pretty tricky to check, for instance, this pie chart and see whether and how to handle these sizes, colors, and so on. So you can just simply take a screenshot and see whether it's correct or not. And I was trying to collect a couple of screenshots which might show that this visual testing might be pretty valid, or at least you could spot some bugs. But these are maybe the most extreme and usually not happen so often, I would say. But still, I could collect pretty decent number of even big players how they could easily fail. So this is the visual testing idea. And as I said, I'm biased. I'm a big fan of it. But I would like to tell you why this is stupid idea, because this is not always the best approach. First of all, if you introduce this one across entire test automation and you are advanced, so you probably run a lot of tests, it'll slow down your test execution. So you might be facing some speed issue. So you need to follow some clever approach in the approach to make sure that you are getting the right results in right speed. It might also become flaky. I was mentioning that. And if you have too many manual tests, probably you don't need to implement this, because manual testers will spot all that issues easily. Of course, this could scale very nicely if you need to cover several configurations. If you need to cover Firefox, Chrome, and Safari, and then various views like various devices and so on, then this might be pretty efficient approach. But if you have manual testing there on one configuration, then maybe this not need to be heavily implemented. Let me now move on, because we are in the 35 minutes, so it's almost in the middle of my talk, and share with you or repeat and summarize these two ideas coming from the visual testing. So by this, I believe I can increase my coverage, because I could assert much more than writing down each and every assert. So the visual check might spot something what I wouldn't be able to spot, because my assert is very specific, focusing on one thing. So the page might be broken, and I cannot see that or I cannot catch that bug via traditional approach. And the second one is you can boost coding efficiency. Basically, you don't need to write so much code if you apply it to the right places. Again, very quick demo. And in order to make it practical and show you how it might work, I decided to use our tool, but there are plenty of other brilliant tools like Applitools or Percy, or I think even Test Lambda Test has something to cover visual validation testing. But as I said, we are building our own solution, so I wanted to show you how we are working with that. And one of the example I pull out here is simple login. And for this simple login, you could run like traditional test automation script, and you can remove all your asserts, because we, out of the box, basically waiting for the end of each and every test. We take a screenshot and compare it with previous run. If you would be interested, I could you can play with that and try it as well. The setup is pretty straightforward and easy. You just install our npm package into your project. You adjust your config file, You just need to bring 2 more parameters to set it up, and then you just run your test. Then you are getting some standard results. And if there is no baseline set, which is expected result, like when you are running first time, you are getting direct link to your project, so you can see how it looks. And then if you are happy with the screenshot, you just approve. And once it's approved, then you can rerun your test. This is actually a very quick video of how it works. So the test there is executed from the command line. I run it, waiting for the result. And you can see that tests start in headless mode. I believe, yeah, it's in headless mode. And once it's finished, I could see the results there. I could see that this screenshot is new, and there is no baseline set yet. I can see there is logout button, so I'm logged in. I approve that screenshot. What now happened is that I am getting this approved screenshot. Then I could easily rerun the test. So you can see that I just run it again. And after this finish, I'm getting a second run, but in this case, I could see that test case already passed. I do not have the link in my terminal to go to the results because there is nothing to check. And I could see that the comparison went pretty okay, or is the same, and the status of the checkpoint, as we call it, is there. You can see also the history. So you can see that there was only one version of this screenshot. If you change your application, you might easily track all the previous screenshots. We also support a couple of advanced features like testing across various test environment branches. You can tag your tests and so on. So this is how it works in a nutshell. And as I said, once you have the screenshot running first time, there is a status new. And once it's done, it just basically automatically compare against the approved screenshot. As I said, if you would be interested and you would like to try it out, use this simple link, Commander, as we call our front end to manage it, Wopee.io, and there are 2 buttons. One is for creating our autonomous testing project, and we have also integration with the Cypress. So there is a secondary button to create project to integrate with Cypress, and it's super easy to start. And I would be really happy to hear from you, whether it's so super simple as I think, or you have some challenges so we could improve and make that experience smoother. Very quick about the product itself, and I don't want to spend too much time on it. We also support some other frameworks, even the mobile testing. So if you would be interested to use it with Playwright, Robot Framework, or traditional Selenium, or WebDriver, there are all the connectors available. You are welcome to use it. I will skip this because I would like to move on to the second part. And if you remember, I was promising to provide you with 2 ideas. One was, or 2 challenges. One challenge was with Assertions, and we already covered basically 5 different ideas or 5 different opportunities where you could boost your efficiency, maybe write less code, or cover more with the same code by introducing a couple of technical checks or visual testing. And now I would like to move on to autonomous interaction. And for that, this is basically this AI part of my talk. So if you were waiting for that part, this will be super simple, super clear, and I'm really excited what's coming up after this, because this is just prototype what we could achieve in the area. So let me now share with you what we are challenged by in that topic of authoring and maintenance. So whenever we write a code to automate our test, or whenever we are discussing what is the most painful in test automation, many teams report that it's maintenance. That to maintain the code is super difficult or time consuming and so on. And I brought a couple of statements because this is something what keeps repeating when I'm discussing with my testing friends, what challenged them most. And one of that statement is, I cannot find locators easily because maybe I do not have the knowledge. Nowadays, Cypress did a nice job that you have the locator there, or we could use a selector hub to do that, or Playwright has its own option to do so. So it's getting better, but still the locators are a pretty tricky part of our test automation life. Another one, people say, I don't have time to work on any new tests. I just keep maintaining. So probably the efficiency to deal with that, creating new tests and maintaining them, it's pretty high or low. I would say efficiency is low, so we spend a lot of time there. Some people say that we spend 40% of the existing test maintenance. Some people say, I gave up. I don't want to maintain, or I don't even want to automate because I cannot keep up with all the changes developers deliver. So I don't know how to deal with it. And I know that there are already plenty of teams solve the issue and they are brilliant and all works well, but still some companies or teams are facing this issue. And probably you could add much more of your challenges. We could also mention maybe test data or a lot of stuff around building stable tests, which are not only locator related. But I don't want to spend any more time here because there's more to come. And I would like to talk now about, if I was talking about some reports at the beginning, where I was mentioning the reports and signals, these are another signals and another inspirations. And one thing I saw somewhere, someone said text. Text is the new programming language. So you don't need to learn any programming language, even test automation framework anymore, if this would be true, because you just use natural language. And this is, I would say, multi-language idea. So even I'm coming from, or I'm now based in Czech Republic, so it could be in Czech, it could be in German, or it could be any language. And I was thinking about how to bring this into more concrete topic. And let me now share with you something which is not Cypress. This is some small piece of Playwright experience with OpenAI and also Meta models. So you could see that I could easily prompt the whatever I need, and I would get that. So I could become very quickly expert on almost any test automation framework. So this was another signal, or one of the signals or inspiration. And I was using, this is called Versal AI Playground. So if you are interested in various AI models, these LLMs, this is pretty a nice comparison tool. You can compare the quality, speed, price, and a lot of other stuff around the models. So you can play there on that URL you can see in the browser. Of course, there are some other options, but this is what I found pretty interesting and fun to play with, to compare the models. Another inspiration came from a very simple thing, and you might know that it's GitHub Copilot. And this is maybe 2 years old when this was in preview mode. I was playing with the Copilot to help one of our customers to build BDD scenarios in Gherkin. And you can see how simple I could get some suggestions. So I just wrote a scenario login, and it suggests me some scenarios or some steps in Gherkin. And I do not need to write them, it just keeps suggesting me. So I was combining all these ideas because all the things could be easily called via some API, REST API, and could be integrated in our Cypress test. So what we could do with this, and these are last two ideas I would like to share with you. I start prototyping of two different approaches. I decided that I will build my own commands in Cypress. One is to form filling on the fly. It basically takes that form on the screen, and I could fill that form with any data, and I don't need to specify locators, and I could, but I don't need to specify some test data. And it's fully generated, and I control it over my Cypress code. And second one, I thought, okay, what about something like BDD Copilot? And this is just working name for it. Maybe I will just rename it. But I was thinking, okay, but if business write that Gherkin files, maybe I could use that to generate the Cypress low-level code to interact with that. So let me share with you now the demos, how it works with Cypress. First of all, I'm using this app, which you saw with the homepage and login in my visual testing demo, to demo actually the next examples as well. So imagine that after you clicking on that sign in button, you are getting to this page. So I have two various ideas. One, what I built, actually I call it Wopee action, is a simple command, Cypress command, where I could say in natural language what I want to do. So if I visit to the home page and I want to go here, I just say navigate to login page. I'm not saying whether it should be clicked on some button or what really need to be done. I just say as a human what I want to do. And sometimes we are fighting with developers or discussing whether there need to be some IDs added into the app, or whether or how to handle some elements. But humans don't behave like that. So would that be better approach or not? I don't know. I don't have the answer to that question. But sometimes I'm thinking, okay, do we need to have really IDs? Do we need to really write it in that way? Or we could do it like in a human way, saying, okay, navigate to login page. I don't care how the locator should look like. And this works, and it worked for me. And this is basically something what I could do dynamically. And I was experimenting with various pages. So I was keep changing the base URL and see whether I could get the results. And surprisingly, this worked. But I would like to show you something maybe a bit more advanced, because what I did as a second command, I said, okay, but after that, fill form. And in this case, and it could be more robust and so on, but I'm just giving you the idea. As I said, I'm not expert in Cypress, but this could be built in a broader, more robust way. And I have a couple of ideas how to advance it or enhance it even further. But what I did, I basically built another custom command, which is integrated with that LLM, and I'm getting simple JSON object with all the instructions. So I know what are the locators, what are the data I should use, when I should click, what are the actions I need to use. And then I just basically, based on this JSON, where I'm getting all the scenario or instructions, I just interpret or implement these into certain actions in Cypress. And I just brought up a very simple short video, but I will maybe skip it because it's pretty, I would say, boring. It's just logged into page. You can see logout button on the right top corner. So that's it, what it could be done. And I'm not providing any locators, any test data. And how this could happen, if you basically go through the form, the form accept, I'll go back for a while, the form itself accept any email address from my previous company. So it's basically if you use info@testena.com or marcel.veselka, which is my name, at testena.com, and any password, it allows you enter or pass the login. And it is inbuilt in that HTML, so the LLM used that to provide this data, so it's easy to pass through. I did the same with the source lab demo, and I was able to get completely different locators and completely different input data. And I had a couple of options or a couple of prototypes where I was not providing this black footer, and I was providing the black footer. And I don't know whether you can see that, but there is some advice what could be entered into the login form. And if you provide that, this LLM just parse it and take that data into the instructions. So this is the second one. I will just skip the video because that's basically the same. But I would like to show you side by side what I did. The only thing I changed was base URL. I keep the code the same. So imagine that you are testing some CRM application, or you are testing e-commerce, or you are having some business processes and you are completely redesigning. You are migrating from React or Angular to React, or from React to Vue, or anything like that. And you have your test cases written in the natural language. You know the flow. So this would be super simple to migrate because everything would be generated or regenerated. Of course, you probably need to have some extra functionality where you would do something like, okay, first run, I would like to generate all these instructions, but maybe second, third, fourth, fifth run, I would like to keep this information and follow the instruction and only regenerate new locators when it starts failing, to see all the warnings and then accept the new locators and everything regenerated via some tool. So this is the next topic I'm working on. So basically, you are not asking LLM all the time for the same for the same instructions. You're keeping them. Whenever you run it, you have it stored, so you reuse them. And when it fails, you regenerate, finish the execution. But you, as a test automation engineer, you have the information that something is failing. So it was self-healed, and you have all the data with you and nicely traced there. So this is basically it. How the magic behind works. It's pretty simple. This is my very first prompt. I have a bit better nowadays because this is not good enough, but you can easily tweak it. I was testing it with GPT 3.5, 4, 4.0, and I believe 3.5 is good enough. It's a bit slower than the recent one, 4.0, but this is the way how it works. I have basically my testing code, which are my custom commands in Cypress. I call OpenAI GPT, and then interact with the application under the test. So that's the magic, nothing special, but I believe this is the idea, which could be super efficient for you, especially when you have some colleagues in your team who are not so advanced with locators or in automation. I think this might be a nice booster. Let me know in comments or in Q&A whether you feel like this is something which would be useful for you or not. We are packaging this into Wopee, so there will be much more like stability features and traceability features, which might be built in-house, but it will take a lot of time. So we believe we will help our customers avoid to reinvent the wheels and try to benefit from feedback of other customers so we could shape the feature in a way that it will be super scalable and help our customers. So this is something I am super excited about, because this brings the test automation into another level. And let me share the last idea behind. But this is basically built on top of this, the previous one. You can have some given when then keywords, or I call it keywords, but it's basically custom commands for the Cypress, and you just run it on the fly. And in traditional way, what you need to do, you need to basically implement each and every this BDD step. In my case, I don't care. It is on the fly generated. I just need to say what I want to test, and it go through. Why this might be a powerful approach, but I believe this is still not good enough. And you can combine it with the traditional super powerful approach. So you combine the traditional way of building your test using these clicks and gets and visits and so on. And you might use also this dynamic, more natural language approaches like action or fill form or given when then, if you wish, or there could be even end in my implementation. So this is something what could be super efficient. And if you run the same code across various applications, this is basically simple, but the same use case, I need to log in and see whether it's there, then you would get this one. I would like to show you one, I would say, challenge or the bug in my prompt and implementation. It's basically the last row. If you notice, it gives me some strange asserts. It says should exist or assert exist. It's unstable first. And second, it's not properly prompted because I didn't cover asserts yet in my prototyping. I'm now dealing with the interaction. So what I would need to do, I would need to provide more specific examples, how I would like to get the asserts and how I want to cover that. I could validate it's there. And actually, this is also opportunity to introduce visual testing at the end. So you have basically autonomous interaction and visual checks at the end, and combine these two. I was actually playing last night with the GPT-4o. So what you could do even is to upload your screenshot and ask via prompt whether there are certain things you would like to see there. So it's even more advanced idea. We are still prototyping. We are now working with some early customers to build it in, heavily focused on their use cases, but also trying to introduce it into our SaaS or our cloud solution. So also the smaller customers could use it. But this is something where we are heading now with the all automation stuff. So I believe you are super excited as I am. If not, then I'm happy to discuss why this might not work or what is missing. But this is where we are heading. And if I would go back to that chart with manual automation, autonomous, these are first signals or first ideas we could bring to that area. I will just skip this because that's basically just repeating how it works. I have short videos, and then that's it. Maybe I would like to show you also, or not show, I don't want to go into detail. I just want to mention here what we are building on top of these ideas. Our vision is that we will be able to deliver experience with our tool where you just share your URL and we will reply back with test report. We will not need any involvement of human. We are not there yet. It's kind of science fiction, but we believe we could do a lot of use cases, especially when we know the URL and maybe business domain. If it's an e-commerce app or if it's a CRM or if it's something else, then we could probably easily guess what are the most critical test cases and how to handle them via our application. And once you provide the URL, in 1 minute, you could set up your project, and in 2 minutes, you would get the test results in your email box. We have it already there, and trying to enhance and advance that approach even further. So if you would be interested, I'm inviting you to use the command I shared, the URL I shared before. It's cmd.wopee.io, or just go to the website and check out how it works and what we could offer. But that's enough. I would like to skip this one because it's just repeating what I already said. You could get very quickly nice results by just providing URL. Let me summarize, because we are now running to the last section or last part. And as I said, I would love to hear from you in a chat or in Q&A, your questions and the topics you would like to discuss or comment, or you can complain or compliment whatever ideas I have there. So let me now summarize. As I said, in short, I was trying to cover two challenges. One is how to assert, and the second one is how to interact. There are a couple of ideas you could use. Some are super simple technical checks. Some are more advanced, like visual testing, and some are even more advanced using some AI or LLM model and approach. And into that, I also decided to bring a couple of, I would say, notes or comments. So if we are talking about assets, I believe we could improve our coverage and increase our coding efficiency. And I think it's always important to think about some robustness, speed, and stability, which might be the case of visual testing or some other approaches I was talking about. But I believe the technical asserts might be super simple and super quick to give you some first signals that maybe there is something wrong. And as I said, visual assertions might increase the coverage and increase the coding efficiency. But I keep repeating myself, so maybe I'll skip this one. And then the topic about LLM-based or AI-based ideas and interaction. This, at the end, is super simple API REST call. But there are a couple of things or questions to answer before to find the right setup. There are a couple of parameters of API you need to set up, like temperature, or whether you want to get the JSON export or JSON format to get, and so on. And also, sometimes we need to consider performance and consistency. The tool or the models itself sometimes reply differently. Sometimes they timing out because they are too slow, and similar things which need to be handled in your code base or in some way. And often, sometimes you are facing the question whether I should really use the last recent model, which is 4.0 or 3.5 is good enough, or even some security issues like, could I run it against the public cloud of OpenAI, or do I need to introduce some models from Meta, which could be run locally, or I could maybe consider Microsoft models, or I don't know whether you noticed there are a couple of moves around Google as well, and nowadays, or I think last week, Anthropic, which is one of the other or third alternative apart from OpenAI and Google models, they announced that they are now available in Europe as well. So we have plenty of options nowadays, and these models are getting better, quicker, more stable, and cheaper. So I think this is still hello world era, in that era, and I believe this will become very soon something which will, I would say, boost our testing efficiency crazily and heavily. So I would suggest to keep an eye on these topics to you, because I believe this is the future. And with that, I would maybe finish here. If you would be interested on these or similar topic, I would advise you to follow us on LinkedIn. We are trying to share some interesting ideas. We recently started with blog posting. We are still having a lot of ideas in our backlog. What might be interesting for you is some other 8 ideas, and these are maybe the blogs, like this webinar is one entire big idea, but there is a lot of topics outside the coding itself, or sometimes even including the coding. But I built up small PDF file, which you could find on our LinkedIn profile, with all the other ideas and all the vendors. I think there is more than 20 different tools you could explore and play with. And these vendors and these tools are trying to implement these ideas and trying to bring the automation into autonomy. So if you are interested, you are welcome to join us on LinkedIn profile. If you would like to discuss these topics, and if you would like to advance your testing, and you feel like maybe we could help you, I would be more than happy to jump on a call and discuss that. We can have a 15-minute, very quick discussion, or 30-minute, whatever you prefer, to discuss that, and we could help you to boost your testing with these topics. And with that, I would like to thank you very much for joining me today. Even there is ice hockey match, or maybe a couple of games competing with me. And for those who are watching from recording, I hope you enjoyed as well. And see you soon somewhere else. If you are somewhere around Netherlands next week, I am delivering workshop on Playwright. So that would be maybe something what you would like to see and have some hands-on experience, because that's three-hour session where we'll be hacking together and building some cool stuff in JavaScript and Playwright using some OpenAI APIs. So that's it. Thank you very much.